Good afternoon. Hello. Alrighty, let's start with a warm-up. Today is going to be more of a technique exercise. We will do some cross-hatching and a value scale. So hopefully you have your papers and pencils ready. Okay, first thing you want to do is to just draw a long rectangle. And we're going to be filling in this rectangle as a value scale. So value, it's a really important art term. It's like the lights and darks of pencils and also colors. And there's a few different ways to achieve different values using a pencil. Today we are going to look at cross-hatching. So we're going to hatch and cross-hatch. So hatch is using lines in one direction, and cross-hatching is when you have those same lines, but then you cross them. Okay? So let's say this part of the bar is going to be the lightest, and this part will be the darkest. So this will be our value scale. And we're going to go from light to dark. So where it's the lightest, you're going to leave a little bit of it totally white, and then you can start, let's just start with simple hatching. And you can go across the whole thing. If you're just joining now, we are looking at hatching and cross-hatching and value. So just draw a bar. You can copy this down if you like, or just follow along with this hatching and cross-hatching scale. This part is going to be the lightest, and this part is going to be the darkest. Okay, so we're leaving a little bit completely untouched here where it says the lightest, and then we're just going to start hatching in one direction all the way down, and then we're going to move down a little bit. So we will leave this part, and over here we can start cross hatching. So we're going to hatch in the opposite direction. You might have to move your paper. Okay. And then, so we left completely white. This part's just in one direction. This part's the first part of our cross hatching. And then we'll leave a little bit more. Put little markers here so we can get darker and darker and darker. And right now I'm just barely touching the paper. So completely white, hatching in one direction, both directions. And then the next one, you can start hatching again in, well, let's hatch in another direction. So we'll hatch this way. Okay. So here I'm hatching in horizontal strokes. Hopefully you can kind of see that it's getting a little bit darker each time we're adding a layer. And the next one, maybe we'll hatch vertical. and if it's too suddenly dark, you can also go back and fix the rest of your scale so it's more smooth. And the next one, we're gonna cross hatch kind of the same way again that we did the first time, but we're gonna press a little bit harder on our pencil and put our lines closer together, and that will help it get a little bit darker as well. So I'm pressing harder and I'm putting my lines closer together. Okay. And with the next marker, we'll cross hatch the opposite way, and again we'll press harder and put our pencil closer together, pencil strokes closer together. Okay, and then we'll just continue, press harder and harder, put our pencils closer and closer together, and we should get a nice and smooth scale from light to dark. And I'm using a 2B pencil, which is kind of soft. It's not the softest. If you use a higher number B pencil, like a 6B pencil, you can get even darker. But I'll use what I have for now. Okay, I'm going to go diagonally again and press super hard. Hopefully you can see the difference. And then opposite direction. Okay, so that's our little value scale with hatching and cross hatching. Hatching is just kind of shading in one way. Cross hatching is hatching 2 ways or more. Okay, so that's a really quick exercise to practice. It's good if you want to start drawing things and making them look 3D. You can use this kind of principle to make the darker things look darker without pressing really hard right away. Okay, work in layers. Awesome. So our doodle along for today, I thought we would draw Mulan. She's one of my favorite Disney characters. So we are going to start with some basic shapes, and then we'll add details as usual. Okay, so I think I'll make her kind of cute again, so we'll make her head kind of big. Circular. You can make her chin pointier if you like, so it'll look more like an upside down egg. And I'm going to leave a little gap. That's going to be where her neck is, and I'm going to draw kind of a trapezoid shape for her body. There we go. And so this is kind of like her waist. It's her waist. And so this is her hips area. So it's kind of like an inverted trapezoid and a little bit shorter. So the torso is longer, this part's shorter. Okay, and then her legs. Her legs will mostly be covered by her dress, but just to show you that she has legs, there's her thigh to her knee, and bottom part of the leg, and some feet. It will be covered too, so you don't have to worry too much, because her dress kind of flows onto the ground. And I'm gonna draw her arms outstretched, because she has a fancy dress with like things hanging off of it, so I want to make sure we draw that. So shoulder to elbow, and if you imagine that the elbow kind of reaches the waist, if you were to swing this down, elbow's kind of at the waist area. So elbow, and again, arms, biceps are thinner, less wide than the thighs. Okay, and arms. Arms will be covered because her costume has long sleeves, so you don't have to worry about drawing hands or feet today. That would be less complicated. Okay, so here's her head, body, legs, arms. So we can start adding some details in, like her hair. She has kind of a fancy Chinese style hairdo. So remember, the hair kind of sits on top of that face shape or the head shape. Her bangs are kind of like so. So it's just a little bit off center. You can put in her ear if you'd like, or maybe it's hidden by the hair. Okay, I can't remember what kind of earring she has, so maybe just like a teardrop shape. Okay, so that's kind of first part of her hair, and she has her hair in a bun. So there's this like hair tie part, and then there's like the bun part of her hair. Okay, if you want, you can draw a few strokes of hair to show the direction that the hair is twirled in. And then I'm just defining the face shape a little bit more. Okay, and she has this loose piece of hair that refuses to stay put, so you can add that in if you like. Cool. Alrighty, and if you'd like, you can add a flower in her hair. Just some flower petals. Okay. And for her face, let's just lightly draw a center line and across. So I'm kind of going from the top of where I drew the ear all the way across, just as a guide. Okay, so nose is kind of along the central line, and then around here and here is where you're going to draw eyes. For Mulan's eyes, you're going to draw a nice almond shape. You can draw the top lid a little bit darker. And if you're just joining us, we are drawing Mulan. If you need to, you can always go back and re-watch afterwards. So Here are some almond-shaped eyes. They look kind of scary right now without the pupils, but we're going to add that in a second here. Okay, so almond-shaped eyes, and you can add pupil and a little shine spot. And I think at this point she was wearing makeup, so you can make her look like she has some eyelashes. Okay, and eyebrows are important. People look super weird without eyebrows, so make sure you add those in. Okay. So far we started drawing the basic shapes of Mulan, her whole body, and then we're just adding her hair details, her little bun, flower. You can decorate her hair with other stuff if you like. You might want to add a hair stick that has some dangly things off of it, so maybe there's like a butterfly and some dangly crystals or something. Up to you. Okay. Alright, and her eyes are almond shapes. To place them, we divided the face shape in half, this way and this way, as a rough guide for where we're going to place them. And if you go back to this line that you drew for where the eyes are going to be, and you divide from here to the chin again, that's kind of where the nose is going to be. Okay, so between the eye line and the chin line is where I'm going to put her nose. And I'm just going to put like a little triangle nose. Little stroke. And then between the nose and the chin, you can draw another line. That's going to be where her lips are. So I like to draw kind of a line, and then I draw the bottom lip. And the top lip. Okay, and I'm just going to fix the face shape a little bit more. Okay, so I'll give you a couple more seconds before I move on here. So here's the neck. And her hair is black, so you can shade that in if you like. Don't forget that her hair goes down and behind her head and her neck. So it looks like her hair continues and she's not balding in the back. Okay, so I'm going to move on a little bit here. So for her dress, there is kind of the midsection. So I'm going to divide the torso part kind of in half. And there is a part of her dress that is like so. And right in between there's like another sash. And remember to draw it a little bit apart from the body shape so it looks like the clothing isn't skin tight. Okay, so just to show you the contrast, this part is darker, but this part and this part is like the same fabric. So if you imagine like a strip of fabric, this strip of fabric goes on here, and then there's like another kind of ribbon that gets tied around it. Okay, and for the collar part, so for like Chinese style clothing, there is one side that goes diagonally down. There's like a little bar. And then the other side just kind of tucks in behind. Okay. And again, make sure it comes up a little bit off of her body so it looks like it's a piece of clothing that she's wearing. Okay, and it's going to be a little bit loose at the shoulders, so just draw your lines kind of out from our main part, kind of heading towards the shoulders. This is like the armpit. Okay, so this part of her sleeve is pretty straight and it follows the shape that we already drew. And then, after that, it gets fancier and longer, so we're kind of having to use gravity. So think about gravity and how it pulls things down. Her sleeves are long, but gravity is pulling it down, so at the top of her arm is going to be against her arm. And then underneath that, her sleeves are kind of going to billow down like so. Okay. So same thing on the other side. It's going to be straight at the top, but gravity is going to pull that long extra fabric down. Okay. And you can erase some of the guidelines if you're getting confused. Okay. And then let's go back to finish her dress here. So there, I told you there is this band of fabric and this sash that she attaches around her waist, and underneath is kind of the continuation of this part of her dress and the rest of her dress. So let's just go along the sides of her legs, maybe stop about like a centimeter or so above her knee on one side. It's kind of going to slant downwards. Okay, so imagine about here on her thigh, and it slants down towards somewhere past her knee on the other side. So on the other side, we're gonna end our lines slightly below the knee, and then you can just do a wiggly line so it doesn't look totally straight. Down and across. Okay? If you want to make it look ruffled, you can draw some lines that go up. It follows the form of the dress, so the lines of the dress. Okay. So I'm going to darken this part while you guys catch up so that I can show you a bit of a contrast. So if this part of her dress is the darkest, this part of her dress is second dark, I'm just going to shade that in a little bit lighter. Okay, and this part of her dress matches the collar color. Okay. And then for the rest of her dress, it just simply goes kind of straight down, all the way down to the ground, and it fans out a little bit when it hits the ground. And like I said before, we drew the feet in to show where they are, but they're actually going to be covered. So again, use squiggly, jagged lines, not straight ones. It'll look more 3D that way. So let me just erase those lines so you can see what the dress looks like. Okay. So that's her main dress, and she also has kind of like a veil, not a veil, like a shawl, I guess. There's like a piece of fabric that kind of drapes down from her arm here and behind her back and then in front here. So to draw that, you can roughly draw in the lines first. So this is the part that's behind, and then it comes up and over and kind of straight down. Okay, and if you were drawing your picture nice and softly, lightly, you should be able to erase those extra lines pretty easily. Okay, so this is just like an extra piece of fabric that she uses, like a shawl or something. You can draw some lines to show the folds of the fabric. Just follow kind of the lines that you already drew. I'm going to erase the lines that are underneath. Okay. And there is Mulan's dress with the fancy hairdo. If you'd like, you can color her in. Her original colors, I believe this is pink. This is a nice pale purple. This part is like dark navy blue. This sash is red. And then this part is like a violet, like a darker purple. And this part is kind of like a dark magenta. Okay, and then this part's really easy, it's just white. But if you'd like, you can use some gray to shade in some of the lines to make it look even more 3D. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. Hopefully you were able to follow along. If I was a little bit too fast, you can always watch and rewatch, pause when you need to, so that you can complete the drawing with me. Okay? So my challenge for you today, after you've done your Mulan drawing, is to try to combine two different animals into one new animal. You're gonna make a new species. Okay? And my quote for today is by Van Gogh. If you hear a voice within you, that says you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. Okay? So if you feel like you can't doodle, show yourself that you can doodle, and just keep doing it. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!